Hey guys, this is Alex. I know it's been a while, but I've been busy. Yeah, I've been out in the world playing other games actually. New games in general, board games, tabletop RPGs. But as someone who's coming back to Yu-Gi-Oh! And kind of rediscovering why I enjoy it, I've kind of noticed that Yu-Gi-Oh's pretty singular. There's so many things about Yu-Gi-Oh! That you're just not gonna find in other games, and you're gonna sometimes scratch your head and ask, what's that about? So this is 5 things that I think makes Yu-Gi-Oh! Different from every other card game I've played. Well, here's something that I think kind of makes me want to scratch my head. So Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards are kind of small. And that wouldn't be weird if almost every other, nope, I won't even say almost, literally every other card game I play has bigger cards. Like for instance, Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards use Japanese size sleeves. So how come the other Japanese card games I play don't use Japanese size sleeves? Most of them use standard size.
Thought about that. I guess that's true.
Yeah, it's just kind of strange, especially when we already talked about how Yu-Gi-Oh cards are really text dense. But it'd been nice to have some bigger cards. Oh well then.
Yeah, also for art too.
It's a shame because Yu-Gi-Oh cards tend to have some good art sometimes. And you know, the art is very valuable in Yu-Gi-Oh cards. Sometimes you have really amazing artistic cards. Then you have similar pose monster with a bleak background behind it.
I think they've gotten better in recent years. But I agree with your card size thing because it's I think if the card frames were just bigger, they could show the art off more.
Yeah, pretty much. Another thing I found is that Yu-Gi-Oh's set design is really rough on new players or any player trying to build a new deck out of a single set. The way that the sets work is that they will introduce maybe 60% or up to 80% of what a certain archetype's deck needs to function in a single set, and then space the rest out over months.
Yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh does that a lot.
Yeah, that's not fun. It's not great at all. So Digimon does space out some support for archetypes, but generally these days what they've been doing now is no matter what kind of set it's releasing, there's always 1 or 2 or maybe even 3 strategies that you can build straight out of that box of that set. And that's really helpful for anyone who wants to they don't know what they want, so they want to build something. And well, this is a new archetype that came in this set, so I'll work on that. And there won't be any more cards you technically need for that deck outside of that set. That's helpful. But
Yu-Gi-Oh kind of has the deck builder sets.
Yes, I was about to mention that. Yeah, deck builder sets would be the answer to that question. And other card games have these little side sets that are more focused too. The difference is though that Yu-Gi-Oh's pull rates for your high rarity cards are really bad. I would hope that if I got 4 boxes of a deck build set, I will be able to build a full deck of something I want from that set. That's usually not the case. You need a lot of boxes because they usually gate your most important consistency cards and or boss monsters behind high rarities in those things, which it's a bit of a pain trying to get the ones you need. So I don't love that, and I wish that Yu-Gi-Oh was a bit more like other games in that regard. But it's a nitpick, really. So another thing I've noticed all these years is every person I deal with from all my different games, mostly card games, they're former Yu-Gi-Oh players. And it's not the other way around. I don't meet a Yu-Gi-Oh player and say, hey, I used to play Digimon. No, that's not the case at all. But almost everyone I play Digimon with used to be a Yu-Gi-Oh player or still are Yu-Gi-Oh players. Same with One Piece, Pokemon. Well, Pokemon's a little bit different, but same with One Piece, and even some Magic players are former Yu-Gi-Oh players.
It feels like everybody's kind of been through Yu-Gi-Oh, I guess.
Yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh's had this stranglehold in our generation that even now when some people have moved on, tried new games, quit card games entirely, they have those memories and they can't let them go. And some people just can't get out the game in general. Look at me, I'm here. Yu-Gi-Oh is also really different because of its relative speed to other games. You get into a Yu-Gi-Oh game quick and brutal. You get in that game, you have no resource limit to what you can play. like other games, are going to give you some kind of resource that you either accrue over time, so you don't even have the full amount that you need to play your strongest cards, or your strongest cards would take so much of a resource that it would be very bad to play in the early game. Yu-Gi-Oh! Says, you got that card in your hand? Play it. Yeah, some cards tend to have like requirements in order to use them in Yu-Gi-Oh! But generally, if you got a card, you can play it, search another card to play that card, search another card, summon that card. It's kind of nuts. And you just build your best board at the very beginning of the game, and then you spend the rest of that game whittling each other down, which usually can be pretty fast. Honestly, I'm not sure. I think it can't be bad, because I think the card game space has space for that kind of play. Otherwise, Yu-Gi-Oh! Wouldn't be here. So I think it's actually a good thing, because people want to play this way, and so people should. So my last point is, the thing that I think made me really enjoy Yu-Gi-Oh! Was the extra deck. Well, back when I first thought it was the fusion deck. And the idea that we had a separate pool of monsters that if you could meet the requirements for, you could summon out of that extra deck and put onto the board for various effects was always cool to me. Well, Konami decided they wanted to take that up to 11, because over the years they added how many more summoning types to the extra deck? We have Fusion, we have Xyz, we have Synchro, we have, I mean, Pendulum almost kind of counts because they do go in there at some point. It's weird, you know. And Link monsters. The closest I've ever seen is in Cardfight Vanguard, where they had a system of, I do not remember the right names for any of this stuff anymore, but I think it was like break rides or something. I think it was called a break ride.
The ride deck, is that what it is?
Yeah, no, the ride deck is like the Digi-Egg deck in Digimon. Oh, no, okay. This was a separate deck where only like your strongest, best cards would be. I think they were like grade 6 or something, or 7, or I don't exactly remember. But I do know that those cards you could only play if you're at a certain damage threshold, and then they would change everything, and they were flashy and they were cool. And so that was pretty close to an extra deck for me. And unfortunately, I didn't actually play Vanguard during that era, but that's why the extra deck is, yeah, that's why the extra deck is so unique, and why Yu-Gi-Oh! Is so unique. Yu-Gi-Oh! Being different from other card games is not a good or a bad thing, regardless of each of my different points. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is Yu-Gi-Oh! And whether that's good or bad is up to you. The hardest thing about getting back into Yu-Gi-Oh! For me has been mostly just trying to wrap my head around what kind of cards are being played now, what are other people using, what am I supposed to be being careful of, and how can I do my best to play the game I want to play and ignore all of that. But there's always a way. That's the thing about Yu-Gi-Oh! There's so much freedom and so much deck building ability. You can sometimes just build that deck that lets you play in that Unga Bunga style you love so much.